Thank you very much, Francis. Now, 49 billion rand has been allocated to Gauteng's Education Department for the 2019-2020 financial year. Now, 75% of the funds will be used to pay teachers and departmental staff. Now, the Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi presented the budget in the Gauteng Legislature today. He says he will be prioritising the drafting of a modern skills-based curriculum, early childhood development and improving school infrastructure. Now, the Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi joins me in studio this evening. A very good evening to you, MEC. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Christina.
You're talking about prioritising a drafting of a modern skills-based curriculum. What does that mean?
The world is changing. The careers that we have now will be gone in the next 15 years. So we need to prepare our children for those new careers. We've started that. We've built a school of BMW in one of our schools in Soshanguve, where children still in grade 8, 9, 10 and 11, they can remove the engine of the car and put it back. So they've moved with times. We've also opened a school of nuclear in same in Swan as well, in partnership with Nexa. We've got a school of aviation here in Kempton Park, thanks to the partnership of Honeywell, a very international, very recognized company that they have agreed to share our vision and work with us. So these kind of schools, we need to expand them, because if you don't do that, you can't continue to teach children careers that are not going to be there. We're entering the fourth industrial revolution. Actually, we're at the tail end of it. Yeah. So we need to ensure that our learners are prepared and well prepared for that kind of eventuality. The world is changing, the careers are changing, education must change.
That's exactly where I was getting at. I mean, the world is changing. Yeah. Certainly education needs to change. And how do you then need to plan to cater for this fourth industrial revolution? I could totally agree with you. Some of the subjects that we have within our schools today will not really be able to equip young children for what's to come in the future.
Definitely. That is why, you know, we've removed the chalkboards in Gauteng, we've removed the duster, we've removed the chalk, so that if the children want to see what is happening up there in the moon, they can be in a position to do that easily. And we need to equip our educators because we have to train them for the changing world. So there are some of the subjects that we'll let go. There are some of the new subjects that we're bringing that we really believe we need proper educators to be trained so that they can deliver those lessons. So it's an exciting moment. We have to brace for that. And our National Development Plan gave us until 2030. So we can't wait for 2030. We have to do it now. And we are glad that we're excited as Gauteng that we have already started that process.
But this has to start with early childhood development, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest investment. It's a game changer. Yeah. We are radically changing it in Gauteng. You know, our children were taught differently at ECD centers. Some families had what we call crèches in the backyard, and some had proper crèches in private schools. Some had them within our schools. But what was taught there was different because the teachers were trained differently, the content was different. So we are now bringing the entire ECD under the fold of the Education Department. And if you do so, it means must have proper teachers. So we're giving all our teachers 4 years to say get a proper qualification within the 4 years. And those that can afford, we're committing ourselves as a provincial government in Gauteng to say that we'll give them bursaries. We have already done that. 985 of them have already qualified in the last 4 years. We'll continue to accelerate that. The second part is curriculum. Gone are the days where our children must come at our crèches in the morning to sing, eat and sleep. We really believe they must be taught a certain curriculum while the mind is still fresh and while the mind can still absorb. We also want to encourage playing through learning, you know. If they are properly playing the necessary games that will teach them something, that will also accelerate that aspect. But we want to introduce 2 years before a learner can go to grade 1. So there will be grade RR and then grade R and grade 1. And therefore, if you have to do that, it means you have to expand the infrastructure of all your primary schools. So we are putting 1.9 billion in this budget for expansion of those grade R centers so that all our children can come to the school. If we do that, we'll strengthen the foundation. If you strengthen the foundation, what is the outcome that is needed by the NDP in 2030 will be something that is achievable. But if you can't do that, we'll miss that opportunity. So we're excited that both the Department of Social Development and the Department of Education nationally, they are leading us through that particular route.
I'm glad you spoke about the training of teachers themselves, because at this particular phase of education, of course, then equips that learner in future to be able to compete worldwide once they're done in a gone through a tertiary education. What kind of drastic change do you think needs to happen now to ensure that we're not left behind? Yes, we've got the chalkboards are no longer there. The training of teachers is taking place already, but there's something drastic needs to happen in order for us to say, if my child is in a Gauteng school or in a school anywhere around the country, they will, when they're done, be able to compete around the globe when they move on to that next phase.
We can't continue to be a laughingstock of the world. Any international report that is released, it put us at the bottom. So we need to change that. We need to move with times. But it's not radical change from the department point of view, but it's also from the parents' point of view. Because we are arguing very strongly, a nation that does not read will be led by a nation that reads. So gone are the days where parents, when they do birthday parties, the gift must be toys and the gift must be a book. The party must be held at the library. Parents must read stories before learners go and sleep, because those are the basics that we need. So it's a collective effort. We will do our part. We're institutionalizing a program called Drop All and Read, which simply means every 10 hours in a week, learners will do nothing but reading, so that we encourage them to read and encourage them to piece up. If we can't have that foundation strong and have parents playing their role, we lose an opportunity. So we must ensure, both as government, but mainly as parents, that we play this particular important role.
But you're also sitting with a great challenge here. Yes, these are all fantastic ideas about moving the classroom to the next phase. But the truth of the matter is, and according to recent reports as well, our children simply cannot read and write.
And
so yes, there's the training of teachers that will happen to the next phase. We're talking robotics, we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, but where we stand currently, the statistics in terms of how many children can read and write is still quite worrying.
But the reasons are up front here. Why? We think that television can teach our children. We think social media can teach our children. We think that our children must not do any exercises. We really believe that they must stay on the sofa and watch television and do all the games that are playing. That's wrong. The reason why they can't read is because we as parents are not reading. Children will not fall in love with reading if their parents are not reading. What our parents are doing? Gossiping, shouting, screaming, and doing all other things. It's very important that we bring the element of reading back as a culture. You go to other countries, when you enter into the public transport, what they do when the train pulls off, they take a book, they read. In ours, I don't want to say what they were doing in those public transport, but the important thing and the research that has been shown that our children can't read with comprehension means we have to change the way we deal with things. That is what I'm saying. We must have new writers, we must have new books, we must encourage our children to visit the library, and we as government as well must ensure that we've got school libraries that are functional, well-stocked and equipped with people that can assist our children.
It's almost as if the responsibility is shifted towards teachers to be social workers and a host of other things, where within the home, that culture of reading, then if it doesn't happen, then I guess you're fighting a lost cause. So then how does part of this program, part of this shift, then going to include, apart from just encouraging teachers to say, read before your kids go to school, read during the school holidays, and participate, be part of the education process itself, because clearly that is not happening.
We must not lose hope. We must not throw the towel. We have to ensure that we work very hard. That's what we have to do. And that is why there are various possibilities, whether we can ensure that the reading culture is encouraged at all levels, so that our children can start to read. But we must know that if we can't get a good teacher, we're not going to have a good education system. So even the teacher training, the teacher development, and the teacher support must be clear. There must be no confusion. Teachers must know week 1, this is what we must do. Week 2, this is what we must do. And we must eliminate lots of assessment, because you can't have continuous assessment that will give you the same results. You must have an assessment. Out of the results of that assessment, provide the relevant support system and wait for the results that will ensure that the system is working or not. So we are looking at many options, but we need to strengthen key exit grades. Grade 1, grade 3, grade 6, grade 9. if we can emphasize and provide the relevant support, I really believe that we can change the landscape of our education system in our country.
You're also looking to a roadmap for 2024, which talks about safe schools.
Yeah.
We're talking about an environment currently that stands where you, MEC, are consistently having to go to schools to diffuse tensions either between teachers and learners, and situations that have been unbecoming inside the schooling environment. How do we then attain these goals when you still have some of those elements that you have to deal with where schools are not safe?
I'm grateful to the South African Police Service, to the Department of Community Safety. I'm also grateful to the Department of Social Development. We now have a plan, and I'm excited. We are going to identify 5,000 potential bullies so that we identify them before they do something wrong. Of the 5,000, we are bringing professionals, thanks to the Department of Social Development, to then change their attitude, provide anger management, ensure that you equip them with the relevant skills so that they don't attack other learners. So that's the first part. But the second part is that the South African police have committed that are going to adopt every school, which simply means in each and every police station, there will be a police person assigned to a school. So that when there is something that is wrong, you don't have to go through the normal channels. You know which police person to contact, and then they will dispatch the relevant support. But thirdly, we will saturate them where we know that doing wrong things. In terms of drugs, we'll want to know who's selling those particular drugs. In terms of alcohol, we'll terminate the license if somebody is selling alcohol to children that are underage. But our roadmap 2024 excites me, let me be honest with you, because part of the roadmap is to introduce something we call a multi-certificated learner. A multi-certificated learner means a learner don't have to spend 13 years chasing a matric certificate. If they fail, they have nothing to show. We want each and every grade to have its own certificate. So grade 11, we're providing them with a driver's license so that if they drop out, at least they've got a certain skill to fall back. Our grade 10, they're doing robotics. Our grade 9, they're fixing lifts and elevators. So we are creating a skill for each and every grade. Even grade 1s, we want all our grade 1s in Gauteng to know how to swim. Our grade 2 must know sign language. Our grade 3 must know how to exercise first aid. So we are giving those particular skills so that our children are multi-certificated. So by 2024, all our children have a certain skill that they can be utilized to survive in life.
I want to stay on the issue of the roadmap to 2024, on the issue of safer schools, MEC. I mean, where you still have, for example, in communities where the first target, when communities are angry over issues of non-service delivery, schools become targets. I recall recently, I think it was at the Alexander inquiry, where you had mentioned that of great concern. How do we then change this curriculum? How do we then change and move with this global world and empower our children to ensure that they're able to compete with this fourth industrial revolution, where the basics such as communities, when we are angry over service delivery and other issues, the first thing you target is a school?
We must be firm. We must not be friendly. We must not even smile. You ban a school, you'll see to finish. You ban a school, it's up to you to see what you're going to do with that school. We are not going to fix it. We'll take the children and take them to other schools. Because if you don't do that, people believe when you ban something, that's when government will come and listen to you. And that's a wrong mentality. And people believe if you disrupt schooling, when you have learners being out of school, then it demonstrates that you've got the power. It's wrong. You are selfish. You went to school and no one disrupted you. Now it's the turn of our children to go to school, we are disrupting them. That's been selfish. Because some of the challenges that you have, these children will go to school and acquire skills and build better houses for you, better roads for you, better flats for you, using the skills that they have. You want to disrupt them because you are complaining of a tar road or you are complaining of houses. It can't work that way. So you touch a public property, leave it that way. You ban a robot, you leave it, they will see to finish. Not a single
cent of your budget will be spent towards rebuilding a burned school.
I don't have it anyway, so it does not mean that I don't want to build it. I don't have it. I can't take money for those that desperately need a school and give it to those that had a school but banned it. Because we'll build it, they will ban it again. So they will see to finish. We must not even smile. We must not even, you must just draw a line. You pass that line, you'll see to finish.
The MEC of Education here in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, thank you very much for joining us tonight.